Hello everybody, this is Danny from Deep South Homestead with Porch Time today. Got another beautiful day out here today. It's pretty hot. It's 89 degrees is set to be the high with a heat index in the low 90s, so it's going to be a pretty hot day today. But that's the South for you. You know, it is what it is. I mean, you got to love it. It may be in the 50s next week, who knows. But anyway, on Porch Time today, you know, being at the conference, the Great Appalachian Homesteading Conference, you know, we went for, there was about 3 or 4 different reasons why we actually even considered it. You know, one, we were honored that Patera would even ask us to come. But our main reason to go was to, couple of 3 things was our main reasons. One, and number one, was to glorify the Lord. That was our first thing. We saw an opportunity to do that, and we felt like that's what we needed to do. Secondly was to be a blessing to y'all. Because, I mean, y'all have been so faithful to us that we felt like we should give back. And, you know, that was another thing. But then there was the one thing, it was to learn from y'all. Now, believe it or not, you know, a lot of people come to our channel to learn. But Deep South went to the conference to learn from y'all, our subscribers. And we learned a lot. Now, once again, our desire is to give back. And Porch Time today is going to be about where do you go from here? Because, you know, a lot of y'all came around during the conference and, you know, you said, I just would love to talk to you. And I know you're busy, and I know there's a lot of people here to see you, and I don't want to waste a lot of your time. And, which was okay. We understood. That's why we were there. We were there for y'all. And so y'all would explain things to us about, have questions about what was going on your homestead and wanting some answers maybe, and we gave what knowledge we had, and lots of you have sent us messages back saying thanks for the awesome advice. Thank you for taking time out to just hear us and giving us your take on what we're facing and all this kind of stuff. And as we come home, you know, we've sat and we've pondered over this whole conference, and we've looked about, you know, what have we brought away from this? Well, first of all, you know, y'all made so many comments to us. Excuse me. You know, they think we're crazy. Was a comment a lot of y'all made to us about how people viewed you all. But then we had, you know, a lot of people's like, Danny, where do we go from here? And you know, you shared where you were at in your journey, and then you wanted to know, where do we go from here? And you know, maybe I should just touch on that a little bit today, and give you some of maybe some of our scenarios. You know, what we face here at Deep South Homestead. Because I mean, basically all I can do is share with you experiences that I have. I can't 100% tell you what's going on where you are, because I haven't lived where you are. But anyway, you know, as I began to think about this and how I answered a lot of y'all, it brought joy to my heart to know that it actually benefited a lot of you. You know, and I'm not sure whether we're going to do a video on this or not, but I'm going to put up here in the link, I'm going to put this lady's video. She was an older lady, a senior lady, had a disabled daughter with her. She came by and she said, I just got to shake your hand. I've just got to hug your neck. And I was like, well, you know, it's okay, you know, and I did. And she said, you have been such a blessing to me. She says, now I want to share something with you. She said, I've been trying to grow sweet potatoes, and it's just been it's just not well. I can't get the slips. You know, she said, I put them in the water, in the jar, and she said, and I tried them, and she said, it just takes forever. And I told her, I said, well, I said that that's technically not the right way to do it. I mean, it can be done, but it's not the right way to do it. And she goes, oh, I know. She said, that's why I'm here. She said, I saw your video about putting them in dirt, and she says, it just blew me away. She said, I took some of my worst sweet potatoes. I didn't want to experiment with any more of my good ones. And she said, so I didn't even really give it much of an effort. I just took some of the old shriveled up old sweet potatoes I had and just took a baking dish and put some dirt in it, and I put them sweet potatoes in it. And she said, Danny, I'm going to tell you. She said, on my channel I have a video on it showing the comparisons. And she said in a couple of weeks I had sweet potato straws this tall and roots all in the thing everywhere. And the one sitting in the jar wasn't this tall, and it's been in there for over a month or around a month. And she said, I'll never do the jar again. She said, oh my God, you were such a blessing to me. And you know, that's what we desire, is to be able to show you all the real truth about doing things. And that lady just blessed me. Now, I'm going to put her video that she showed, a link to hers here. I'll either put it in the description or up here in the cards. I mean, I don't know which way it's going to go yet. But, and show you her video about her experience in this. Because, see, that's what blessed our heart, is to know that what we're actually doing is working and is reaching out to y'all, and y'all are being blessed by it. Because you have to understand, there's so many things that I take for granted. And that's my fault, because I've grown up a certain way, and a lot of things are just common sense to me, and were taught to me as a child or as a young adult. And I'm quickly learning after going to the conference that there's so many of y'all that did not get that experience in life. And because of that, you've gotten to a specific point on your homestead, and you're wondering, where do we go from here? You know, maybe you've had some success at things, and maybe you haven't had some success at things, and you're frustrated, and you're throwing your hands up in the air, and you're going, I'm just ready to quit. I don't want to do this no more because it's too hard. There's not any YouTube channels out there that really shows me step by step what I need to do. And I get that. And if we fail in that area, then please let me know, because if there's some part of a process that I leave out that's just simply because it's second nature to me and I don't think about it, leave me a comment and say, Danny, what about this step? You know, what do I need to do here? So that we can better help y'all. Because, my friend, we do this for you all. You know, I mean, yeah, it would be so much easier for us just to get up every day and do what we do and not have to worry about a camera and just grow our food and all this kind of stuff. And we can get things done in half the time. You know, but our desire is to minister to y'all, and y'all in return are blessing us back. And that's what Christ put us here for on this earth, is to minister to other people. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to do it through the gospel. We can do it through everyday life, through educating one another, through helping one another out. You know, these are things that Christ meant when He said to minister to other people. And I think sometimes as Christians, that just gets twisted all out of sort, you know, and we have to realize that a lot of our ministries that Christ said that we're to do is based on helping one another. I mean, look at the story of the Good Samaritan. I mean, there was 2 or 3 people who passed him by, prominent people. And then one guy comes by and picks him up, mends his wounds, and takes him to a place and puts him up. And then tells the hotel owner, he says, look, if he has any more expenses when I come through next time, I'll pay you. There was nothing there about the Bible. There was nothing there about any scriptures. There was nothing there about any kind of religion. The man just simply helped somebody else. And as born-again believers, I think that's where we miss the ball. And at Deep South Homestead, what we desire more than anything else is to be that good Samaritan. We don't want to push a religion down your throat. We don't want to come at you and bombard you with all these scriptures that says you must do this or you must do that or else. That's not who we are. We're about helping you get through some hurdles in your life. And we're doing it through gardening, raising livestock, homesteading, permaculture, all these different areas. Because that's who we are. That is our ministry to you all. Now, where do you go from here? That basically depends on you as an individual. I can't answer every question. But what I can do is I can encourage you. I can encourage you to do what it is that you do best. Because you see, on your homestead, when you're asking the question, where do I go from here? You do whatever is best for you. Because what's best for me here at Deep South Homestead may not necessarily be what's best for you. Because I live in a completely different climate. I may live in a completely different scenario. I may have more land. You may have less land. You may be urban. You may be an apartment dweller. But my friend, you do what's best for you. You know, that's the whole ball game there. That's how you win this ball game. That's how you know where you go from where you're at, is you do what's best for you on your homestead. This lady that I put up in the link who grew the sweet potatoes, she does raised beds, she does container gardening because she's an elderly lady with a disabled daughter, and she does what's best for her and her child. And she succeeds at it. You know, so that is my advice as to going, where do you go from where you are, is, you know, do, and Wanda and I are, you know, because I said I would use Deep South Homestead as an example. Wanda and I do what is comfortable for us to do here. As we age, you know, I mean, people go, well, you're not that old. It's not the age on me. Granted, I'm bumping 60 years old, but it's the miles. See, I've been broken all to pieces. I've lived an extremely rough life. I've done extremely hazardous jobs, you know, and it's took its toll on my body. I've done things that other people wouldn't do. I climbed to heights that other people wouldn't climb. You know, I've done those things that most people would not do out of just being afraid of doing something. And because of it, I now suffer physical conditions because of it. But Wanda and I here at Deep South Homestead have learned to do what is comfortable for us. And that's another piece of advice I would give you on your homestead, is you do what's comfortable for you. Don't jump out there and say, here at Deep South Homestead, you know, we plant in the area of 400 sweet potato draws, you know, on our place. Now, that's because we need that many potatoes to make it through an entire year. We don't go to the store and buy potatoes. And as a result, it gets us by for a year. But now you as an individual may live in an area where there's farmers markets, where you can go 5 minutes down the road and you're at this elaborate farmers market, and these people grow great homegrown produce. And you live on a lot in town with a small raised bed gardening in the back. It's not feasible for you to waste your space growing sweet potatoes when you can go right down here at this farmer's market and get a 50-pound bag of them for $10. You know what I mean? That's just good sense. But now, you have a small enough area that you could put tomatoes in raised beds and come out way ahead, because going to the farmer's market, you're going to pay $5 to $8 to $10 a basket for tomatoes that may have 5 to 8 tomatoes in it, where at home you can take that small space you've got and put it in raised beds or in containers, and you can grow a 50-pound container full of tomatoes for a very small amount of money. You know what I mean? So, and that's wisdom. So wherever you are and whatever your circumstances are, you do what's comfortable for you. Now, always try to remember that you don't have to do what everybody else does. You know, and that's one thing, I guess, if I have a fault with YouTube, is that there's so many channels out there that tell people, you need to do it this way. I'm not going to say that, because I'm wise enough to understand that what I do here may not work where you are. I mean, I've watched a lot of y'all that bought Danny corn from me, and you have your Danny corn growing. I've seen some already up 6 and 8 feet tall. Nice, beautiful stalks. I've seen some that's not even this tall. You know, mine's up in the field down here. My stalks are as big as my arm right now, right here. They're already that big, and they're not but 5 feet high. But it's the way I do it here. You may do it completely different. Your climate may be different. Your soil may be different. You may have different minerals in your soil than what I've put in mine. You know, there's all kinds of different scenarios, but I'm not going to look at you and go, oh, you didn't do it right because you didn't do it like I did it. You know, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let you take my seed to your place and grow it the way you grow it. And my desire is to see what kind of success you have doing it a different way. Because that's who we are. You do what works for you in your climate. Now, granted, you know, my corn is a heavy nitrogen feeder. It's the way I have it bred. It burns up lots of nitrogen. And if you've got a good rich soil where you're at, you may not have to put as much nitrogen as I have to put. But my ground is about 80% sand. So the nitrogen leaches through mine so fast, I have to dump the nitrogen to it in order to get enough to make it what I need it to be. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you have got to put X number of pounds of nitrogen per row to my corn, because I don't know what kind of soil you have. So you do what works best for you. And so many of you ask, Danny, where do we go from here? Well, my advice would be, do what works for you. Do what you're comfortable with. You know, experiment. Don't waste your ground doing things that makes no sense to you. Like I told you about the sweet potatoes. I have plenty of land. I mean, I could grow 10,000 sweet potato plants if I wanted to. But that would be foolish for me, because I'm not going to eat that many. So I do what's comfortable for us. 400 is comfortable for us. I have the ground for it. It doesn't take anything away from me. So I do it. But now you, on the other hand, may live in an urban development like we talked about and just have a few raised beds. It's wiser for you to go to that farmer's market and get your sweet potatoes and save your limited amount of space to do things like peppers or tomatoes or things that just don't take up a lot of space, onions, you know, things that you can get a pretty good return from. Maybe some cucumbers on a trellis, maybe a few squash, you know. Things like this that you can do in a small area is what needs to be done. And not try to take care of things like corn, for instance. Corn, if you've just got a small backyard garden and you're wanting to grow corn, it's probably not the wisest decision for you. You know, because corn needs to be grown in blocks of 4 or greater rows in order for good pollination. And, you know, if you live in a small area, then it's probably best that you don't grow corn. It's probably best. Now, if you just want a couple of roasting ears, you know, that's fine. If you don't mind sticking them in amongst some beans or something like that, you can do that. I'm not trying to talk you out of growing corn. I'm just trying to tell you, use your land or your resources wisely on your homestead. That's where I would go, because like here at Deep South Homestead, Wanda and I are always asking that question: where do we go from here? You know, I mean, what's next for us with our physical conditions or our financial conditions or whatever? You know, we are friends with a landscaper, and he has lots of these big black pots that trees come in. We bring them here, we wash them, we clean them good, and we fill them with good dirt from our property. We're trash piles. I mean, people go, and that's another question I guess I can address here. People always ask us, where do you get your dirt from? Well, here at Deep South Homestead, when we cut trees down or limbs, or we go around and pick up dead limbs and stuff like this, we have a place on the property that we pile all this stuff up. And we just let it decompose. If we have to bring a piece of equipment in, have to move some, do a lot of pushing of brush out of the way, clear fence rows, whatever, all this stuff goes into a big pile and it's kind of crushed down. And we don't set it on fire and burn it, we just let it sit there and rot. And as it does, we constantly add to it and add to it. And what we do is we take and we dig out from under the bottom and get the rotted material out from under the bottom. And that's what we put in our containers, mixed in with a little bit of soil for some good organic matter, and then we'll dump lots and lots of rabbit fertilizer in there with them. But now, we are experiencing some issues using the rabbit fertilizer. We've found out that, I don't know if maybe some of the feed that we're getting has some genetically modified issues in it, or maybe some Roundup was used on some of the crops, but we are actually finding out that some of our pots that we put rabbit fertilizer in is killing our plants. And that's something I'm having to work on to see what the issue is there. Now, but I mean, these are things that we just do here. You know, that's where do we go? That's what we do. We're constantly adding containers because we're getting older. We know that as time goes on, we're not going to be able to go out into the fields, and we're not going to be able to work like we used to work. Wanda and I are looking at purchasing a small tractor, a smaller tractor with a front end loader on it, something that we can go into these trash piles and scoop up some of that rotten material and just dump it in our pots, rather than having to do all this shovel work and stuff like that. You know, if we're going to keep doing, we have to learn to, like one of our shirts says, to work smarter, not work harder. And that's a piece of advice I would give anybody. Try to design your homestead to where, when you say, where do we go from here, think about your older age, because that's something that Wanda and I is trying to do now. We're trying to think about our older age, and we're trying to develop our homestead more on a permaculture basis, like I've told y'all before, bringing it closer to the house where we don't have to be as far away from the house, where there's more water resources, and doing it in a permaculture type style, putting a lot of the containers underneath big shaded trees and putting the shaded crops in these containers, our cooler weather crops in these containers, you know, where the hot sun's not blistering down on them. You know, just trying to be smarter about what we're doing here in the direction in which we're trying to go here. And then I guess that would be another piece of advice I would probably give you, is to start considering more permaculture, moving things in. If you live on a lot in town and you're not allowed to do a lot of gardening, you're not allowed to have a lot of animals. Rabbits is usually something you can get away with a lot of times, and rabbits make some of the best fertilizer for gardening. It's not a hot fertilizer, it's a cold fertilizer. Works really good in the gardens. Also a good meat source. You know, 2 rabbits produces about 90 pounds of meat a year for a family. So, I mean, it's really something that I would consider if I lived in an urban situation, with rabbits instead of maybe chickens. If you can't have chickens, a lot of times you can get away with the rabbits. But, you know, these are just some thoughts today that I picked up from the conference, based on a lot of the questions that y'all threw out to me. You know, and the number one question was they think we're crazy, you know, because like I mentioned. But the next question is, Danny, where do I go from here? You know, where do we go from where we're at? How do we expand? How do we do this, or how do we do that? And hopefully today Porch Time has helped out a little bit with that, and maybe it will be a little bit of an encouragement to move forward. Because we face a lot of the same things here at Deep South Homestead that you face out there, and we try to show them so to be an encouragement to you. We have failures. Sitting right here on my porch, I'm looking out. I have 2 pots here on the front One of them, they both had the same tomato plant in them, same dirt, started off exactly the same time. The one on my left here is probably about 6 feet tall. The one on my right got to be 3 feet tall, and I walked out here one morning, the whole plant was just dead. It just drooped down and died. We put a new plant in the pot, a new tomato plant. It's up about 6 inches, I'm looking there, and the leaves are starting to wilt on it. What's the answer? I don't know. The dirt, both of them, the dirt come out of the same pot, you know, the same thing that went in them. I don't know. I just don't know why that tomato plant, every time we put a new one in there, it keeps dying. Unless there's just something that's in that pot that you know, may need to dump the dirt all out of it, wash it, and maybe start all over again. I don't know. But you know, we face those things on our homestead just like y'all face. And we don't let it stop us. Because, like, I will say this, one of the subscribers asked me the question and said, Danny, how do you keep the insects from eating up everything you have if you do totally all organic and you don't spray anything? Well, it's called, the biggest thing is that you just got to be diligent. We go out every day, at least 2 to 3 times a day, walk our rows, looking for insects. At the first sight of an insect, we will check a leaf or something. If we see a bunch of them hatched out on a leaf, we just clip the leaf off. We destroy it and destroy the creatures that's on it. If we see where a worm has been, we make sure we find that worm and get him off of whatever he's on. My tomatoes, I went through them this morning. Anything on my tomato plants 12 inches from the ground and down to the ground, I got a video that's going to be coming up about that. We cut all the leaves off of them because tomato plants, they get diseased up from the bottom up. And, you know, you're growing tomatoes, you're not growing leaves. You know, so there's just lots of things like that that we do here at Deep South Homestead, and we face the same obstacles that y'all face. We have the same insects, the same pests, the same diseases, the droughts, too much rain. You know, we face all the same things, but we don't stop. We plant extra for the animals, insects, and so we'll have enough. Because I know a lot of people, y'all have thrown out the question to me, oh my God, what are you going to do with all that food? Well, the bottom line is we plant extra because we have the room, first off. And secondly, the bugs is going to get some, the animals are going to get some, the heat's going to get some just going to die, but some will produce. You know, so that's how we combat a lot of things, is we just do some things in excess, you know. Now, if we was doing everything right here around the house, I could probably do it in a more controlled environment, and I wouldn't have to have as much, and nothing usually comes up here and eats them. But, you know, with the type of predator control we do, we pretty much succeed at most of what we do. We do have some failures, you know, like the tomato plant I'm telling you about here. I don't know what's going on with that pot, but we'll figure it out, because that's what we do. We figure out our situations. We do not throw our hands up in the air and quit and go, oh my God, I'm just not going to do this no more. It's just too hard. I don't know how they do it. You know, you just have to stick with it. You know, where do you go from here? You go where what works for you, and you go what's comfortable for you. Use wisdom. Don't plant things that require large areas if you don't have it. If you can get to a farmer's market and purchase those things, then go to the farmer's market and bless a farmer in return. Help him keep his farm going. Grow things that you can grow and enjoy them. I hope today's been a blessing to you. I hope it's answered some of your questions that y'all keep asking me. So have a blessed day, and thank you from Deep South Homestead.